I guess we'll start. Good morning. Well, here we are. We've made it to the last Sunday of winter. Time marches on. Thank goodness for that. So I guess we're going to sing this morning a chorus called "What a Mighty God We Serve." And it was written by a gentleman by the name of Unknown. So,
He's wrote a lot of them,
yeah,
too.
he's written a lot of it. I think it was a cousin to Anonymous, too. I'm sure. We will start with 321 this morning. 321, what a mighty God we serve. Stand. We'll sing 321. 321. Give you a half second there. I guess we'll try singing it through twice. The first time to learn it, the second time to learn it. All right, here we go.
Okay, last call, anybody? All right, Acts 22. We will finish, I was going to, now that I think about it, start on 23 and have notes, but I don't, I'll do it. So we will finish Acts 22 today. I'm going to start 5 tracks to make an even 20 tracks to fill up a full month of weekdays. So of 5 tracks I need, I did 3. I did, if somebody has a good topic, give it to me. I did creation. I decided to do the wall, would be equivalent to the one we already have on the door, the wall. That is a popular thing, the wall. And should there be a wall at the border? Spiritually speaking, should there be a wall? If there's no wall, what happens? Everybody gets to heaven their own way. There's no wall. You just cross over anyway. So then it leads to the gate, the narrow way. That's how the track goes. So the wall is a popular topic nationally. So we did that, and then I did, we don't have one on forgiveness, so I wrote one on forgiveness. I don't know if I finished it, but I'm close to it. I don't know how many words I need for 60 seconds, and then I wasn't around the kids. I like to read them to the kids and let them time me. That way, they're forced to hear the track. And what is their fun? What is the child's fun? They have fun timing it. And then we can time it several times over so I can read it to them several times over. So which makes it twice as fun for me. So if anybody has a good topic, give me a topic and then for 2 more. And I'll write 2 more 60-second tracks and we'll go from there. Acts 22. We have 3 more points, Paul's deduction, Paul's deliverance. No, 2 points. And then Paul's descendants, 3 points, Paul's descendants. Okay, so last week, and I did not write it down. I don't know why I didn't do that, but I didn't say start. We were at Paul's detention. In verse 24, the chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle and bade that he should be examined by scourging. that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. All right, so he was detained at the castle. Father, bless our lessons and preaching today for your divine will to be ultimately performed now in Christ's name. Amen. So the castle was the castle of Antonia, which was the barracks for the Roman soldiers of Lysias command. All right, so his name there appears, I don't know what verse, but who he is. How would you know that this is the castle of Antonia? How would you know that? How would I know it? I would have to guess then Josephus as one main source. Could there be other sources? There could be other sources. Is there a biblical source? No, there's no biblical source. So you're not going to turn to another verse in that book and say, in the Bible, and say, here's the source for that. Going to be examined by scourging. Scourging does loosen tongues. Because Paul preached in Hebrew, leaving the commander here still in the dark, because he could not understand what was being spoken. Friday, I wanted help with this, and the two guys got out of the car, and I was here early, and they gotten out of the car. There was two cars pulled up, and I said, amigos, you know, they were not English speaking. I said, amigos. I went, basically, give me 10 mementos. 10 mementos. I don't know why I said 10, because I know it's dece. Is that Spanish for 10, dece? Yeah. Diez? So those nueve, diez. So I knew 10 was like a decalogue, 10. And I said, I went like this, 10 momentos, and I said, well, clock in. I told him, I don't want you to just do this. I said, clock in. I was trying to do this. And so, anyway, it took about 10 momentos for them to get over here. We finally got them over here. I got them over here to set this up a little bit. But when you're in a foreign language, man, you are in the dark. In the dark. All right, Paul's deduction. Verse 25. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? Now he wants to get out of this. He doesn't want to get a beating. and who could blame him? So there's this, I don't know if we were here last week. I don't know why I did not write down where to start. I always do, and lately a couple times I did. But his deduction is that there's a law for the Romans and there's a law for the others. And in this country, don't they, lately they've been saying there's 2 tiers of justice in this country. 2 tiers of justice. There's one for you and there's one for them. One for us and one for them. This scandal with the admissions. How many people they laid this dragnet and they dragged it through the lake. How many people did they pick up? 70 people?
150 in the beginning of the
150?
50.
Oh, 50. How many do they have? Does anybody know? Anybody think it's the tip of the iceberg? I think it's the tip of the iceberg. They picked up 50 people on the first pass with the dragnet. And then, is this something new or something been going on for a while? Been going on probably for a while. Anybody, Dad, maybe I brought this up on a Wednesday night. How did you get into college in 1925? In 1925. How did you get into the college? On
Grades.
your own merit. And how'd they prove your merit?
By your record?
No, you have no record. There's a test. My father said you never had to go to high school to go to college.
Entrance exam.
It's a, pardon?
There's entrance exam.
Oh, I know. I took an entrance exam to go to the state. But requirements today is you have to have a high school diploma. You know, there's this prerequisite. So you never needed a high school diploma years ago. You took the entrance exam. If you pass it, you're in. And so before you took the entrance exam, if you had your ducks in a row, what would the kid be doing? The S word that we all hate. He'd be studying like mad. Studying and not cheating, but studying, trying to get as much information as he could learn, and how to add to what he already learned by going to grade school, and as far as that it took him. Well, now, man, who knows what it takes? So as Paul deducted that there's this two-tier system, one for the Romans and one for everybody else. And he deducted right away, well, I'm not one of the others. I'm a Roman citizen. I am. What do they call it? It's the race. We're playing a game. It's the race where they pull the what? Say it out loud. The race card. Well, we'll pull the race card out. He pulled the citizenship card. He didn't hesitate. He pulled the card he needed. He pulled the card he needed. So he appeals to Roman law right away. Yeah, he is a Roman citizen. He's probably of the wrong race, but he is of the right nation. All right, so Paul's deduction. He pulls that card, he doesn't hesitate. Verses 26 through 29 begins our second to the last. Paul's deliverance. He deducts the problem. He figures out how I'm going to get out of this. He pulls the citizen's card. And so then he is now, because he does that, this is how Paul is delivered. Paul's deliverance. And so he's going to go to the law. When the centurion heard that, verse 26, he went and told the chief captain, saying, take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. So the Romans have a law for their own. And they're not afraid to go to the law. Here, if you go to Festus, Acts 25, go to Acts 25. By the way, Paul's arrested. Paul wants to get out of this now. He doesn't want to wait. He wants out of this now. Who doesn't want out of this now? He's been arrested. He's probably he ends up going to jail. If you want out now, right this minute, did Paul want out? Wouldn't you say he wanted out? Could Paul get out? How long was he incarcerated? I think it actually states 2 years. Now, he could have been, you could be right on the 3 years. In other words, between here and where it says 2 years, 6 months could have transpired. Or a year could have transpired. But it does say, well, that to give the Jews a pleasure, he kept them in jail for another 2 years. Kept him in jail for another 2 years. Okay, so Paul's deliverance, it doesn't take, this particular deliverance from the beating, that takes place immediately. But to be released, and he wasn't released, he ends up going for trial and going to Rome. It didn't happen. So he states Roman law in Acts 25, verse 16. So Festus does that. The Romans aren't afraid to go to the law. To whom I answered, it is not the manner of the Romans to deliver any man to die before that he which is accused have the accusers face to face and have license to answer for himself concerning the crime laid against him. All right, so do we base our laws off a lot of this? In the Wild West, what would they call that when they did do it? They didn't apply the law. It's a lynch mob. You know, they hang it right from the neck, you know. They can't get the rope up fast enough. Acts 23, go there, verse 29. 23, verse 29. Whom I perceive to be accused of questions of their law, but to have nothing laid to his charge worthy of death or of bonds. Their law, the Jewish law, worthy of death and of bonds, the Roman law. He hasn't done anything wrong. By the way, to impeach the president, how do they impeach him? What does he have to be guilty of?
Treason and high crimes.
Treason? Do they say high crimes and treason, or treason and high crimes?
Well, either or.
They do either or. Treason and high crimes.
I forget the exact order it's written in the
What is the
Constitution.
treason and the high crimes? I would assume that treason and high crimes is against our country.
Right.
Well, what is the treason and high crimes against our country? I just, help me out here. Anybody got a few?
Well, the possibility of
Oh, the
dealing
collusion?
with foreign powers.
Say,
Dealing
colluding.
with foreign powers, the Russian thing.
Yeah, the Russian thing, all right, and if they debunk that,
Collusion is not treason.
and collusion, so they say it's not treason, but let's say it is. Let's say it is treason, and they can't prove that. Well, now they want to go and check out his all his tax records from here to Timbuktu. Oh, and when they did finally pull it out, and then the girl, I forget, it was MSNBC, she pulled it out and read it, and here I have it, and this is what it is. And she actually made a fool of herself when she did, because she exonerated the president. The president was off the hook. And then the president said, oh, well, what that means is I got to get a better accountant. Because in the end, they proved that he paid too much taxes. I thought that was kind of funny. So, worthy of death, worthy of bonds. And so he is, the Romans said, well, you don't have a case here. Religiously, the Jews claim they did. Well, why, there's these two freshmen, there's three freshmen. The one can't figure out why a company loans money for construction. She doesn't understand what that means. She thinks they should fix the burnt house, not build, it's weird. But there's these other two freshmen. They're of what nationality, or what religion are they? Anybody know what religion they are? We're going to drag this right into it. What are they? Are they Christian? They're Muslim. Who created ISIS? Who created it? Made a void, and they claim he created ISIS, was Obama. And then he ran on this ticket, ISIS is toast. If you elect me, they are toast. So what do those two Muslims want to do? They want to fry the president, I would assume, because he killed ISIS, because of Muslims. This is no peace-loving. And I guess he was in the plane, this is a couple of weeks ago, he said to the one general, the general he had, how long would it take you to get the Taliban? Anybody know how long it would take to get the Taliban?
A couple of days.
No, not that one, the one before that.
2 years.
Did he say 2 years or 2 months?
2 years.
2 years. He asked the other general that's flying him, how long is it going to take you to get the Taliban?
2 days, 2 seconds.
2 days. He said, well, you're hired. The other guy's fired. Now, nothing's been announced that I've seen. Maybe the Taliban's, they're gone. They might be gone already. We don't even know it. Just get rid. They are not peace-loving people, folks. They'd rather see you and I dead. I mean, I don't have any vendetta against anybody. These people want you dead. They wanted Paul dead, and Roman law said, we have nothing to bind him with, jail him for. We have no reason to kill him. And then in the end, what did condemn Paul? Why did he have to go? He appealed then to Caesar. And then, well, since this is the letter of the law, we have to obey the law. Well, since you appealed to Caesar, I'm sorry, you have to go to Caesar. There was this thing on the golf the other day. They showed this on this particular hole where they're playing. They backed up 30 years or so. It is a very frustrating hole, and the pros have a hard time with it. And they make it hard for these guys. I mean, you're a pro, you better be able to play. So the guy was so frustrated, he went to pick up his ball. He was on the green, and he was going to pick it up to mark the ball. To mark the ball. There's PGA rules. He was going to put the marker down, pick up his ball, and then walk off, and then everybody's lining up their putts. He has to come back, put the ball back down, pick up his marker and putt. I think he puts the marker down. He's so frustrated, he grabs the ball. He goes like this. Anybody know what happened to the ball? He hit it, didn't get it, and it goes into the water. According to PGA rules, then, what happens if you don't have your ball?
You lost the hole.
No, not lost a hole, but you lose a stroke. It's a lost ball.
So that's
And now it counts as a lost ball if you can't retrieve the ball.
it's a mulligan.
It's a mulligan the way you and I play. The way they play, PGA, in other words, we're talking about Roman rule here. They stuck to the rules of the game. This is what it says. All right, it's like this book. This is the rules of the game. So the rules of the game, if you lose your ball, it costs you a stroke. It's in the water. Well, his trainer was out in the field. What did his trainer do? This pro's trainer. They have these personal trainers. I mean, there's a lot of money involved here. He went in the water and retrieved the ball. He went diving, got the ball, gave it back to him. He didn't lose the stroke then. But yeah, they showed him diving for the ball and he finally found it. They had to, it just can't be any ball. It's got to be his ball. How many balls are at the bottom of the drink?
Many.
It has to be his ball. They had to clearly identify, yeah, this is your ball. All right? So he states the Roman law here is we have no reason to hold this man. All right, there's 3 ways to become a Roman citizen. How many ways is there to become a citizen of the United States? Yeah, when I took, what do they call that, government or, was it government? Civics? I don't think I had a course called civics. They called it civics. I think we called it government. Or was that a separate course? You had both.
In our school system, we had 2 separate classes. You took civics in 9th grade and you took government in 11th.
I took government, but man, I had to be honest with you. I don't remember civics. I don't remember that. How do you become a citizen? You're born to naturalized citizen. No? How do you become a citizen? Your parent is an American citizen. You could be born overseas. If your parent is an American citizen, you are a citizen. If you're born here, you become an American citizen. And then the other is? Say that again? Oh, if you married an American, if you're overseas, you're the American, you're overseas and you get hitched. Or even here. And you get those 3, I don't know.
Born in a U.S. embassy anywhere in the world or any military base.
You're a citizen.
That's how John McCain was an American citizen. His father was a Navy admiral born in the Canal Zone when it was still U.S.
Okay. So those are the ways you become one of the ways. Why is it that you had to be born here? What was the reason? What's the bottom line? If you're born here, you are an American citizen. I think there's 2 reasons. It's not the reasons that the southern border, they're coming in here to have babies. They've stretched it into meaning that. Why is it, I'm pretty sure, why is it if you're born here, you are automatically an American citizen? There's 2 groups of people. They were not citizens. Indians and slaves, right? So then they make this law that if you were born here, you are a citizen. All the slaves then become citizens. If you're an American Indian, you become citizens. Isn't that part of it? Or am I way off
American
base?
Indian didn't become U.S. citizens until the 1920s.
For the Indians.
Yeah.
So they were born here.
Yeah.
Before that, they couldn't vote. Now they can vote. They're a citizen. So wasn't that passed specifically for that reason? To get Indians in and to get the blacks, the slaves in.
Yeah.
Indians have their own rules and regulations, though. They have their own.
Well, that doesn't matter what they want to make up. It's what the government decided, what the rules were, that makes them eligible to vote. And I think now this has been stretched so that they have these, they just come in here to have the baby, they become a citizen, and the rules have now been stretched or to mean something other than what it was originally intended to be. Does that make sense, or has anybody heard that or not? Or is this something out there in left field? Anyway, freeborn, the child of a Roman such as was Paul. Verse 28, he was freeborn. He was born of parents that were already citizens. You could receive it by gift. Now, I don't have a verse for this, but again, where would you get the information from Josephus, something like that? This next one, by a gift, you are awarded this, a reward for some great service that you did, which was Paul's father. It's how he becomes a citizen, either politically, militarily, or economically. He becomes a citizen. Basically, buys his way in. He becomes a citizen. He does some great thing for Rome. And then these guys earn, they preach, or they give a speech at a college, and they give them what? An honorary what? Oh, an honorary degree. They give these guys honorary doctorates. Yeah, I did make the mistake of doing that in class. Doctor this and doctor that, and doctor this and doctor that. And I did do that, and I asked the question. Anybody know the question I asked?
Do you earn degrees?
Did you earn that, or was it given you? There's a big pause. What was the answer?
Moving along.
It wasn't moving along to the next question. It was given them. So when you hear doctor this and doctor that, man, question marks just go up all over the place. They never opened and cracked a book in their life to earn that. I'm not saying they didn't crack a book, but they were awarded that. And they just, I asked the question. I probably should have done it privately. I shouldn't have done that publicly, but I asked. Well, they opened it up for questions.
You asked for it.
And, so freeborn by gift, by purchase, it could be bought. Because the chief captain said, for a great sum of money, he bought this. Man, and you had to have the money. If you're the chief captain, let's say you're the chief captain, you earn a certain salary. If you're not the chief captain and you're just a soldier from some conquered country, are you making the same wage as the chief captain? Are you going to have the ability to buy your way in? Forget it. Forget it. You're not getting in. Isn't it nice to know you can become a citizen of heaven and you don't need any dough? You don't need any money. Roman law protects its own, just as God protects his own. Why don't we go ahead and look at these verses. Now, these particular verses I did not look up before service. We have down here, I put them down here a while back. 17:25, he saith, yes. And when he was come into the house, Jesus prevented him, saying, oh yeah, I like this story. What thinkest thou, Simon? To whom do the kings of the earth take custom of tribute? Of their own children or of strangers? So they exacted tax from to get this tribute money. And so I counted that they were strangers of the world. Strangers of the world. Their own children, and they didn't exact it of their own children, but of strangers. And the children are free. But God supplied them the money. God supplied, man, there are preachers that run here. They run here. They run here and they run some other place to prove that you should not pay what? Income tax. I don't know where that comes from. I think it's the weirdest thing. And they go to great lengths to prove that they don't have to pay taxes. And the midnight knock, we're going to auction your house off. I don't know. John chapter 1, we are born of God, we become the sons of God, which were born, not of blood, nor the will of flesh, nor the will of man, but of God. We're born into the family. Protects his own. Galatians 4. Galatians 4:26 through 30. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren, bearest not. Break forth and cry. Thou shalt travailest not. For the desolate hath many more children than she which hath a husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the Spirit, even so it is now. All right, we're talking about this Agar, the two that were, one was born of the bondmaid, and the other came from the free woman, the miraculous birth of the bondmaid. What was her name? Hagar, and then who was the free woman? All right, and both of them are the son of Abraham. And it teaches, that's what we're going to preach today. Ye must be born again. The whole Bible does that. There's always two. One is born of the flesh, the slave girl, and then the other is born of the free woman, the free girl. All right, so you had to be reborn, born again. So that story is all throughout the Bible. Romans chapter 6. And it calls, is this where it calls it an allegory? Anybody see allegory there? For Abraham had two sons. Oh yeah, allegory, verse 24. That may be the only place in the Bible where the word allegory appears. All right, Romans chapter 6. Romans chapter 6, verse 23. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ, our Lord. The idea is that he protects his own. We are born into his family, and we are no longer under the wages of sin, which is death, the old nature. We are now have the promise of life eternal through Jesus Christ. So the physical birth is death, and spiritual birth is life. Romans 8, verses 33 and 34. Who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifieth. Who is he that condemneth? It is Christ that died. Okay, so all the condemning that can be given, it's not going to stick. Once forgiven, always forgiven. It is Christ that died, yea, rather, it is risen again, who is even at the right hand of God, who also maketh intercession for us. All right, nothing can be laid to the charge of God's elect. God protects his own. Acts 22, where we were, verse 25. He was a Roman, and he was uncondemned. Uncondemned. All right. What normally happens? Let's say the police knock on your door, and you're going to get arrested, and they say you're under arrest, and you say, and then what's your next thing that you say? Other than, I gotta get my things, let me call my lawyer. The knock comes at the door, you're under arrest, and you say, oh, what's the charge? What's the charge? What is the evidence? Okay, so Donald Trump is, you're under arrest. Well, what's the charge?
Breathing,
Breathing.
letting out CO2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the end of the world. Exactly. What's the charge when you could say collusion? Well, what's the evidence? In other words, if I'm arrested for murder, there's got to be a smoking gun was found in my hand. What is the evidence? There is no evidence. So what are they looking for in the last 2 years? They're looking for evidence. Is it backwards?
We don't need no stinking evidence.
We don't need evidence. The whole thing is backwards. They're now, and if they can't find their evidence, they're going to go back into his tax returns and the building of his buildings to try to find that what they're looking for is a crime. That's what they're looking for. Not that what they're doing is a crime, but they're trying to find a crime. If you're going to be arrested, you have to have committed the crime in order to be arrested for committing the crime. Now we have to prove that you are. Then the burden becomes on their end to prove that you committed this crime. They're trying to create a crime.
You're too old-fashioned.
Oh well. John 5, verse 24. Now, folks, you can't. This freshman is asking, and now they have these recordings and videos of. She asked this girl that was serving martinis a year ago, asking, let's say the CEO of Wells Fargo, why would you be building a pipeline if it's going to be leaking? What are you going to? Basically, he says to the moderator, I don't even know how to answer that question, because the question is what?
Out there.
Because the question is out there. You go to the bank to get the loan to buy the house. I call a plumber to fix the plumbing. The girl doesn't even know what she's talking about. And some are saying, well, no, she's being fed these questions to ask these stupid questions so that, not to make them look silly, because, boy, they look silly, is to get it so that no financial organization will ever loan money ever again. They're trying to force these people to be embarrassed. They're embarrassing themselves. And she has a degree in this. It was, yeah, exactly. Verse 25, John 5, verse 24. Verse 24. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word and believeth on him that sent me hath everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation. Now either it's so or it ain't so, but it's passed from death unto life. There it is in black and white. It says it. God, you get saved, God protects his own. God protects his own. All right, verse 29. They bound him. Verse 29, it says, and straightway they departed from him which should have examined him. Chief captain also was afraid, after he knew that he was a Roman, because he had bound him. All right, so he did something against Roman law. So he had broken the law, and he was nervous. In Romans 8, as far as comparing that to you and I, therefore, there is, verses 1 and 2, there is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus hath made me free. From the law of sin and death. So Christ has set us free. And we are children of God by faith. So this morning I plan to I plan to draw a drawing here. I got all my chalk laid out here, my different colors. I'm going to draw a drawing. Yeah, I'm going to, I don't know, you might think I'm nuts. You might say, boy, I mean, he's preached some pretty bad ones, but this is really dumb. Do you see the picture? Do you see what I just drew up there? No, but by faith you're going to see it. There's a picture there.
I see it.
You see it? Well, good, Rich. And I don't mean the tires. Rich, I'm glad. I want you to see it. By faith, if you're saved here today, you're going to see the drawing. Does the world want to destroy your faith? They're going to do whatever they can to destroy your faith. All right, Paul, they bound him. Galatians 3, verse 26. Just bear with me this morning. For ye are all the children of God by faith in Christ Jesus. I mean, it just point blank says that. By faith, we are children of God. Right? God protects his own. Verse number 30, Acts 22, our last point, and we are done. And I am going to have to get busy preparing more yellow. You know what they would do with me? We would have practice time. We have practice time, and then we would be told. I would say, well, where can I preach? I said, that's up to you. You find your own place. I'm not here to. I mean, they're pretty nasty. Find your own place. And the one that would be telling me that, I used to go to Akron Baptist Temple B and whatever the evangelist is that down here, and we would just fire away in there, and you find your own place. You find your own place. So then when we finally did find our own place, and then we were at breakfast, I'm sitting there, I don't even know if they know I'm sitting there. They're making fun of those that were practicing, guys in the Institute. And I knew the pastor was just roaring. He's 6 feet under. He'd be roaring like, women can preach better than them, and laughing it up and just. I'm thinking, what? I could never figure it out. And then I always had my yellow paper, and they would say, there he is with his yellow pieces of paper. I like to think I have something to say because of the yellow pieces of paper. They never had any paper. Anyway, here it is, my yellow pieces of paper. Verse 30, on the morrow, because he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews, he loosed him from his bands and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Paul down and set him before them. And these, in other words, accused of the Jews, to stick with the outline, these are his descendants, those that he's related to. These are Jews, I'm a Jew, Paul's a Jew, these are the Jews. I'm going to bring the Roman centurion, I'm going to bring him before Paul's own kind. And we're going to see where the land lays. Paul was loosed because there was most likely a penalty for falsely accusing and punishing a Roman citizen, number one, who was first uncondemned. He's uncondemned, man. He doesn't want now to get caught doing something wrong. Instead of beating a confession out of Paul, he figures, well, the Romans called for the Jews to come and accuse Paul. So instead of me beating it out of him, I'm going to find out what is the problem from their own mouth. And so we're going to have this meeting. They're having this meeting. I think this is where they almost tear him in half and tear him in pieces. So that ends Acts 22. Next week we will begin Acts 23. Shake hands before preaching in 15 minutes.